students and future AP Lit students, we will demonstrate a final word for you. So at first, there's going to be 4 people in a group or more, depending on how many people are in your class. But the first person is going to start, and they're going to give some literary criticism about whichever novel is chosen for you to do, and they will go for 3 minutes. They'll talk for 3 minutes, and then the next person sitting clockwise will get 1 minute to respond, and then so on and so forth, until it goes back to the original person where they give a 1 minute final focus about what everyone said. Once that one is done, it goes to the next person, totally new topic, and they will speak for 3 minutes, and so on and so forth.
Alright, the novel we're doing is Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. The topic I chose was to talk about the analysis of how authors choose the names for their characters. All great writers give very careful thought to naming their characters. For example, Mark Twain chose names based on how they would reflect the character, attributes, and symbolism of each character. Huckleberry Finn's character was originally based on Tom Blankenship, who was the son of the town drunk in the place that Mark Twain grew up. But in order to avoid a libel suit, he decided not to use the actual name of the person, because that had been an issue for him in the past. The name Huckleberry is based off of an actual berry, which grows in New England, similar to the hurtleberry, which grows in actual England. Both of them are similar to the blueberry. And the fact that the huckleberry isn't native to the South, but to New England and to England, shows that Huck has more of a northern mentality than he does a southern mentality, as we can see when he says, "I knowed he was white inside, and I reckoned he'd say what he did say, so it was all right, and I told Tom I was a-going for a doctor." He sees Jim as more than just a black person, or more than just someone who is less than him, less human than him. He acknowledges that they're the same on the inside, even though he doesn't have the words to describe it in the way that we do in the modern day. Furthermore, the expression, "I'll be your huckleberry," means to be just the right person for a job, and it's also a mark of affection for a partner or a comrade. And clearly, Huckleberry Finn and Jim get to be very, very close over their adventures together. So this is another reason that it's symbolic for his character. Huck is meant to be a foil character for Tom Sawyer and vice versa, and their names actually are juxtaposed just as their attributes and characters are. A huckleberry is hard to cultivate, it's small, insignificant, doesn't taste very good, and this is just like Huck. Huck is free, he's impossible to pin down, and in the grand scheme of the story, he doesn't change any of the societies he goes to, he just passes through. Sawyer is one who cuts trees down, which symbolizes that, Tom has much grander dreams than Huck does. He wants things that are bigger, he wants to do things that matter, he wants to change things significantly. And lastly, Finn, as a last name, was the name of the Irish drunk man from Twain's hometown. And obviously Pap Finn is also a town drunk. So my question for you guys is, what other names for literary characters are really significant and important to the plot and characterization? And also, how else does Mark Twain juxtapose Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer?
Time! Okay, so in Huck Finn, Twain begins telling his readers that you shouldn't really look for like a plot, like a moral lesson in the plot, and Huckleberry usually refers to something that's like utterly like insignificant, either a person or event, and it's kind of funny, like and ironic, that Huck Finn was the outcast in the Martian society, and he was able to kind of see some flaws that others in the society couldn't see. And I totally agree with what Allie was saying about maybe he was possibly trying to avoid like slander or libel or whatever. And when something is so unique that it becomes like something of pop culture, and such as you're termed like the "I'm your Huckleberry," and meaning like you're going to be like your go-to person for that. But there's also a song called Moon River that refers to a huckleberry friend, which means that you're going to be like that good friend for that. And then also it's important to the character's identity.
Time! So as Tara and Allie both said, Twain obviously uses a lot of symbolism with regard to his characters' names and personalities, but I also think that in the story, their upbringing, the characters' upbringings, also show their contrast between the two. So for example, although both of them are orphans, we see that Tom grows up in a very loving environment. He has an aunt, he has lots of friends, and he obviously is very wealthy. Meanwhile, on the opposite hand, Huck has a drunk father, not a lot of clothes, and doesn't have the same sort of friend group. So this portrays Huck as kind of the realist character and Tom as more of a romantic. And then this also ties into their perceptions of each other as well. So Tom envies Huck's freedom, and Huck envies Tom's education. So when we're looking at both of their differences, I think we see Tom as ultimately a very conformist character in society, and we see Huck as more of an outcast and an individual, and one who really relishes in his freedom.
Thank you, Natalie. And going off what you said about what Tara said about what Allie said, I'd like to make a reference to another popular literary work, The Hunger Games, by Suzanne Collins, which in the novel, Collins names her characters based on social or economic class. For example, the lower class characters, such as Katniss or Prim or Rue, are named after plants, while merchant class, like PETA, are named after the goods they make. PETA makes bread, and PETA is a kind of bread. And in contrast, the higher class characters have Roman or Shakespearean names such as Cato or Portia or Cinna or Octavia, very old world, very European, suggest an era of sophistication. Or they could be just typically aristocratic and frivolous sounding, like Glimmer or Marvel, which sets them apart from the lower class characters, which are all
Okay, so I really like what Natalie said about how, like, Huck and Tom were brought up really differently, and that's, like, another difference between them. Like, Huck can't be tamed or made to be polite and mannerly as, like, the Widow Douglas would have liked him to be, which is at the very beginning of the book, which, like, reckons back to his name or harkens back to it, whatever. Him wanting to be free and unable to be cultivated and, like, pruned. And then what Tyler was talking about, another name from the Hunger Games is Gale, and he's like wind. He's always wanting to be free and run away, but he's held back by Katniss, who is a plant that has roots. So she doesn't want to leave. She has roots. And then back to what Tara was saying about The Great Gatsby, and how Jay Gatsby's name isn't really Jay Gatsby, but he changes it because he wants to appear to be more a part of that culture. That's another character who self-identifies. Oh, is my time up? Okay, thank you, Miss Reddy. Here are some tips for when you do your final word. First of all, you want to take notes, because when you start talking, you're going to completely forget what you were going to say. It happens all the time. For example, we just did a take of this in which I forgot half of the things I was supposed to tell you, so I wrote them down. Next, don't be nervous. Everyone is going to be afraid to talk, and everyone's going to mess up. It's okay. Everyone has to take the 3-minute turn, and it's not as long as it seems once you actually get started talking.
Don't be afraid of stammering or messing up. There's a long pause. It's fine. That's natural. And remember, there's no eating, drinking, or smoking inside the final word protocol.
And lastly, don't worry about being this smooth at it, even though we had a lot of mistakes. We prepared this. I told everyone what my topic was going to be. We rehearsed it 3 times, and then we did this. And we still messed up a lot. So, I mean, it's never going to go smoothly. Don't expect too much from yourself, and honestly, just have fun with it. This is way less stressful than a Socratic seminar.
And take AP Lit.
Take AP Lit.
Not the worst.